Undoubtedly one of the most iconic Cartoon Network shows of all time, with one of the catchiest intro songs to boot. Johnny Test was a staple of many of our childhoods. Premiering in 2005, the series is packed with crazy adventures, experiments, superheroes, crushes, and a talking dog. But before I tell you more about it, let me introduce our lovely characters who will join us on this journey. Johnny is an 11-year-old boy who loves everything that's considered cool. He's super mischievous and always willing to get involved in his sister's crazy experiments. In short, he's their lab rat. He may be a bit irresponsible and sometimes too eager for adventure, but he's got his heart in the right place. Mary and Susan are Johnny's twin sisters. They're both nerdy brainiacs, spending most of their time in their lab scheming crazy experiments, and the rest of the time daydreaming about Gil, their crush. Despite their similarities, Mary is a bit more open-minded than Susan, who tends to be more fact-oriented and less inclined towards hypothetical thinking. To add to that, Mary is also somewhat closer to Johnny with her sweeter and more empathetic personality, while Susan is more stubborn. Dukey is Johnny's best friend and loyal companion, joining him on every adventure. Genetically altered by the twins, Dukey can speak and behave like a human despite being a dog. His personality is somewhat more mature compared to Johnny's, and he's undoubtedly the voice of reason. Eugene, also known as Bling Bling Boy, is the wealthiest kid in all of Porkbelly, and has a deep crush or even an obsession on Susan Test. His relationship with Johnny is one of love and hate, as although he somehow gets along with Johnny, they're constantly fighting, because Johnny is always trying to keep him away from his sister. Bling Bling is the personality of a wealthy, arrogant, greedy, and fancy kid. Despite this, he manages to be a good guy sometimes, and also has a super cool lab. Hugh is the uptight, stay-at-home father of Johnny and the twins. He's obsessed with order and cleanliness, and is always on the lookout to prevent any disaster from his kids. He loves them dearly. Lila is the mother of Johnny and the twins, and the wife of Hugh. Lila is rarely at home because she's a hardworking businesswoman, but despite her demanding job, her family always comes first. Finally, we have Gil, the twins' crush and their next-door neighbor. Gil is a good-looking, popular blonde at school. However, despite his charm, he's extremely clumsy and not very bright. Now, without further ado, let's get started. We're kicking off this recap with episode 1, Johnny to the Center of the Earth. Porkbelly, Johnny's hometown, is in trouble as the police continue their search for the mysterious underground bandits responsible for this chaos.
Police are still trying to catch the mysterious underground bandits.
Johnny believes the bandits are mole people, but no one believes him, so he's determined to prove it. To pull this off, Johnny plans to use his dad's new camera to capture everything on film, with Dukey as the bait. However, the plan fails when the bandits steal everything: Dukey's clothes, the bike he's using, and the camera. Johnny knows he's in big trouble, especially since he was forbidden from touching his dad's camera in the first place.
Isn't that your dad's new camera? He told you touch it and die.
He decides to turn to his twin sisters for help. After all, they're two brainiacs who know everything. Who better to help him out? Once in the twins' lab, Johnny asks them for the keys to the atomic Earth dozer so he can go down to where the mole people reside and get the camera back. However, when they hear mole people, Mary and Susan burst out laughing. As they talk, they get interrupted by Hugh, their dad, who asks Johnny about his camera.
Where's my new camera?
Johnny assures him that he'll get it back, but Hugh gives him only until dinner to return it, meaning Johnny has just under an hour to think of something. Witnessing their whole conversation, the sisters agree to give Johnny the keys to the atomic Earth dozer, but not before making him test one of their new experiments to win over the boy next door. It's a salt shaker that contains microphysic flakes for a super body, which genetically modifies the body to achieve maximum teenage hotness.
They genetically adjust your body to maximum teenage hotness.
Just, go with it. Johnny takes the salt, and after a few seconds, he transforms into a very attractive teenager, but just moments later, he changes again, this time into a monster. However, there's nothing to worry about because the effect doesn't really last very long, and Johnny soon returns to his normal self and takes the keys from his sisters. But before Johnny uses the atomic Earth dozer, the twins show him how to reach the location of the mole people. In the midst of it, the computer crashes, and Eugene, Bling Bling Boy, appears, threatening to destroy Porkbelly if Susan doesn't go out with him.
Unless you, Susan Test, have dinner with me, I will destroy Porkbelly!
Susan, not thinking twice about it, simply disconnects the screen, and they continue explaining to Johnny what he needs to do. Once at the mole people's hideout, Johnny and Dukey try to threaten them with weapons, but they quickly realize it was a terrible idea, when thousands of ground dwellers surround and imprison them. And that's not all. The duo also discovers the mole people's plan to conquer humanity.
We must speed up our attack on the Earth's surface!
Seeing this, the twins decide to help by sending Bling Bling with the salt so that Johnny and Dukey can transform into monsters and escape. Unfortunately, though, the transformation is short-lived, and they soon return to their normal state, finding themselves surrounded once again. Hopeless, Johnny grabs his dad's camera and decides to take one last photo with Dukey and Eugene. Yet, in that moment, he realizes that the camera's flash is the mole people's weakness. By a cosmic coincidence, Johnny manages to defeat them, save humanity, and recover the camera just in time.
Everyone on Earth has these flashing weapons of death!
Definitely a very hectic day. Next up is episode 2, Johnny X. Johnny and Dukey are minding their own business, playing with mud in the yard, when they notice Mary and Susan acting a bit unusual. And they're all dressed up in outfits that practically glow. Johnny quickly realizes that his sisters are trying to catch the attention of Gil,
What's with your freaky sisters?
They're waiting for Gil.
a handsome neighbor. However, Gil completely ignores them. Oof. This annoys the twins, but they keep trying with no success. Johnny mocks them, saying that not even a love potion could make Gil notice them because they're not hotties.
I don't even think a turbo love potion would get him interested in you not hotties.
This, of course, makes them even angrier, but it also motivates them to create a new experiment, the love bubblegum, which is all well and good, but their dad has forbidden them from testing experiments on the neighborhood kids. Seizing the moment, Johnny tries to blackmail them, promising to keep their secret in exchange for superpowers. But the twins reject his demands and lock him and Dukey in a giant safe to avoid any trouble. You can't take any chances, you know? With Johnny and Dukey out of the way, the twins place the gum just outside the house, hoping Gil will find it as he passes by. The plan seems to work perfectly. Gil takes the gum, and the love potion starts kicking in. Right as he's about to confess his undying love, though, something goes horribly wrong. The poor guy ends up turning into a rampaging gorilla. The sisters quickly run back to Johnny and ask for his help to capture Gil so that they can give him another potion that will get everything back to normal before their dad finds out.
You must capture Monkey Gill and bring him back to the lab.
Johnny, of course, agrees to help, but only on one condition, that he gets superpowers he's been wanting. You know, the cool stuff. Hurricane hands, the ability to shapeshift, costumes, and of course for Dukey, the ability to fly. Armed with his new superpowers, Johnny quickly sets out to save the day and bring Gil back. But the mission isn't as easy as he thought. Gil is captured by the military. This forces Johnny and Dukey to chase after them all the way to Area 51.1.
We're taking him to Area 51.1.
Prevent them from experimenting on Gil. Once there, Johnny and Dukey are captured, and Johnny's superpowers are taken away. Well, except for one that he had hidden away, his fiery farts. Gross. With this unexpected power, the duo manage to escape, bringing Gil along with them, and they safely return home, where the twins restore Gil to his normal self. Everything seems to return to normal. Gil continues to ignore the twins.
Hi, Gil!
Hey, Johnny.
Johnny and Dukey are no longer extraordinary, except for the fact that Johnny still has his super farts, which after a night of eating beans, end up destroying the house. What a superpower. Moving on to episode 3, Johnny versus Bling Bling Boy. During a class on molecular fusion, Mary and Susan present their latest invention, the Alchemist 5000, a microwave capable of transforming any metal into gold. Definitely an incredible invention, but extremely dangerous if it falls into the wrong hands, which it definitely will. At home, the twins have Johnny test one of their experiments, a chocolate milkshake that stimulates massive muscle growth and strength.
We'll increase your testosterone level so you can grow a mustache.
Unfortunately, Hugh tells the girls they need to get rid of the microwave before dinner time, or they'll be banned from the lab for a month.
Now get rid of it before dinner or no lab time for a month.
Of course, he says all this right after using the machine to turn all the house's dishes into gold. The twins quickly prepare to dispose of it, but just as they're about to, Bling Bling Boy's robots crash through the roof and steal it. Not only that, moments later, Bling Bling Boy appears on the screen, demanding that Susan go out with him and be his girlfriend, or he'll use a giant laser along with the invention to turn all of Porkbelly into gold. Susan obviously refuses, and instead asks Johnny and Dukey to help her retrieve the Alchemist 5000 and stop Bling Bling. Man, not even a threat to the city can make her go out with this guy. Johnny agrees, but only on one condition. He gets kung fu powers and a baby triceratops.
Give me extreme kung fu powers and a baby pet triceratops.
Armed with these new skills and the baby triceratops, Johnny and Dukey head to Eugene's island. There, Johnny and Dukey decide to split up. Johnny heads straight for the volcano while Dukey stays in the island's forest. Shortly after, Johnny is captured by Bling Bling. Once again, he demands that Susan date him to save her brother, but it's clear she has no intention of agreeing. Fortunately for Johnny, Dukey saves the day just in time. Enraged, Bling Bling decides he's done wasting time with Johnny and activates the laser to turn Porkbelly into gold. Johnny, determined to stop this, teams up with Dukey to use their kung fu skills, but it's not enough.
Our kung fu powers are useless!
So Johnny drinks the chocolate milkshake his sisters made, making himself extremely powerful once again. With his newfound strength, he manages to stop Bling Bling, and he's left in the hands of the most terrifying person of all, his own mother. That's what I call a mission accomplished.
We'd better get you home before your mom does the same.
Episode 4, Johnny Impossible, kicks off off with Johnny playing baseball, and let's be real, he's very bad at it. He doesn't hit the ball even once, so the other kids start making fun of him. Fed up, Johnny goes to his sisters for help, hoping they can whip up some sort of invention for the afternoon to show everybody that he is truly the best at baseball.
I need to whack a baseball so far that people will freak.
Twins agree, but of course they have their usual condition. He has to test one of their other inventions first. This time, it's a liquid that stimulates hair growth. After trying it out, the twins give Johnny a custom bat with high-tech features. The bat lets Johnny hit the ball as hard as he wants without even needing to swing that hard. He just has to choose the setting.
You just need to make contact. A light or hard swing won't make a difference.
Johnny gives it a shot and picks the home run option, and it works like a charm. The ball goes so far that it ends up breaking one of the windows of Old Ma Newman, the neighborhood grouch. Unfortunately for Johnny, he needs to retrieve the ball from there. On their first attempt, Johnny and Dukey disguise themselves as spies to sneak into the house, but they don't get past the yard because Old Ma Newman's dog bites them.
Big dog!
Time for Plan B.
Plan B, the twins provide Johnny and Dukey with a mini tank, which allows them to cross the yard without getting bitten and recover the ball, or so they think. They end up grabbing the wrong one. Or Plan C, the twins help Johnny create a Christmas scene at Old Ma Newman's house by using a snow machine. Johnny, dressed as Santa Claus, tries to enter through the chimney, but totally fails doing so because the old geezer placed a trampoline that sent Johnny flying right back out of the chimney. Frustrated, Johnny realizes he only has 10 minutes before the game starts. However, his sisters come up with one last plan. Mary calls Old Man Newman, pretending to be a pharmacist, selling a rejuvenating gel.
We have a new gel that will make you younger, so please come down and get it.
During this, the old man rushes to his car and heads to the pharmacy, which gives Johnny and Dukey a chance to sneak into the house. They use a giant metal sphere to protect themselves from the dog, but the sphere is too big to fit through the door, so Johnny sends Dukey out to get the ball. Everything seems fine until Dukey discovers there are actually 2 dogs guarding the house.
Whoa, didn't see that coming.
Johnny and Dukey make a break for it. In the chaos, Dukey accidentally swallows the ball and they end up surrounded by the dogs. Aye, but isn't the end, as Johnny gets a brilliant idea. He uses the bat on Dukey to hit a home run since the ball is inside of him. This sends them both flying and they land on the baseball field, ready for the game. As they land, the ball pops out of Dukey, only to be caught by Old Man Newman, who demands an apology from Johnny in exchange for the ball.
How about an apology for breaking my window?
The ball back and the game in full swing, it's Johnny's turn to bat. Everybody's left shocked when he hits a home run, of course thanks to the high-tech bat that Johnny used, and he's thrilled to have finally succeeded. But his happiness is short-lived when he breaks another window, this time at his own house. Moving on with episode 5, Johnny Test Party Monster. During dinner, Hugh shares some exciting news that delights everybody. He gives the twins permission to host a teen party at the house, and get this, boys are allowed.
We decided to let you host your first teen dance party.
Super excited, the twins rush down to their lab to start planning everything. The party theme, invitations, and music. Determined to make everything perfect, Susan suggests using the Pharaoh Booster,
What we need is the Pharaoh Booster.
a potion that enhances appearance and makes the person irresistibly cool. However, Mary isn't entirely sure about it, as it's still just a prototype. Although it worked on the lab rats, they need to conduct more experiments on humans to ensure that there are no side effects, which, you know, there's definitely going to be. So of course they call Johnny, who better to test it out. Johnny isn't too keen on the idea at first, but when he hears that the guest list for the party is so long that there's no room for him and Dukey, he agrees to take the potion on the condition that he gets to attend.
If you do us one small, tiny scientific favor.
Twins agree, and Johnny drinks the liquid. Boom! He transforms into a very attractive guy. The potion seems to work perfectly with no signs of any side effects. Seeing its success, the twins ask Johnny to hand out invitations at school and make sure everybody accepts, especially Gil. At school, Johnny does just that, and even invites Janet, the most popular girl, who really likes his new look.
You can faint now.
Oh, okay.
Everything seems to be going well, or so it appears, until the twins notice that the lab rats now look terribly like smelly zombies. Not long after, Johnny returns to the lab, looking equally abominable. In despair, Johnny begs his sisters to return him to normal, but they only have time to apply some makeup to cover it up, as the guests are already arriving. With Johnny looking somewhat more presentable, the twins let everybody in, and the party kicks off. Although it seems the twins' little makeover wasn't enough, as the guests start wanting to leave after seeing Johnny's hideous appearance.
Yeah, I just remembered I have to go home and, barf.
In panic, the twins turn off the lights and begin working on another potion using their own DNA to restore Johnny's looks. But there's a catch. The potion will make them look hideous in return. That's why the twins hesitate, but they don't have any other choice. So while Johnny becomes handsome again and the party continues, the twins are zombified and stand alone in a corner as they watch everybody else enjoy the party. Well, at least the party's still going. In episode 17, The Return of Johnny X, Susan and Mary are once again the winners at their school's science expo thanks to their new and incredible invention in invisibility cloak. Just as they're about to receive their award, Bling Bling crashes through the ceiling, interrupting the event because he wants to snag first place this year. To achieve this, Bling Bling brings his own equipment, the Repto Slicer, a lizard with razor-sharp blades that wreaks havoc on everything in its path. But this only annoys the professor, not only because of the interruption, but also due to all the chaos that it causes.
Eugene, you are disqualified.
As a result, he disqualifies Eugene and tries to confiscate the lizard to prevent further trouble. Bling Bling, however, refuses, leading to a struggle that accidentally drops the lizard out of its box. The lizard escapes, and as everyone panics over the chaos, Bling Bling gets hauled off to jail. That's when Johnny suggests it's the perfect opportunity for him to make his comeback as Johnny X. The twins are initially unsure since Johnny has lost most of his mutant powers, he only has one left. However, after thinking it over, they decide to restore all of his mutant powers and hand him the invisibility cloak.
And here, it's our electrochromatic blanket. It will allow you to sneak up on Repto Slicer.
Fully equipped, Johnny sets out to find the lizard, but he fails to catch it because the lizard is too fast. Meanwhile, back with the twins, who are now joined by some special agents, Mr. Black and Mr. White, who have also been trying to handle the situation. They receive what seems like good news. Bling Bling Boy has agreed to reveal the lizard's weakness and how to stop it. However, there's a catch. Susan must give him a kiss in exchange. Desperate, Susan reluctantly agrees and kisses Eugene. Gross. And to make matters worse, it was all for nothing because Bling Bling lied. He had no idea how to stop the lizard, he just wanted a kiss.
I just said that to get a kiss from Susan, and it worked.
Frustrated, Johnny interrogates him about Repto Slicer and quickly realizes that Bling Bling is a terrible owner. But in doing so, Johnny stumbles upon a great solution. Playing with it. Turns out the lizard is actually a sweet and lovable pet, it just needed attention. Clearly, the whole mess was Bling Bling Boy's fault for being such a lousy owner. Next up is episode 26, Johnny and the Attack of the Monster Truck. After finding out that there will be a monster truck event in Porkbelly, Johnny and Dukey don't waste a second getting ready to go, as Johnny is a huge fan of monster trucks. However, while leaving the house, the duo encounters Bling Bling, who has shown up with his own monster truck, Roadburn, hoping to impress Susan. Johnny, of course, asks if he can drive the truck, but Bling Bling refuses, insisting he's only there for Susan.
I want to show her road burn.
Johnny continues to plead, and even brings Susan outside to meet Bling Bling, but she isn't interested at all. Upset by the rejection, Eugene gets out of the truck and starts banging on the tires, and the truck, which to our surprise is actually alive, gets annoyed. Johnny decides it's best to make a quick exit with Dukey and avoid any more trouble. But without them noticing, Roadburn follows them to the event, where things quickly spiral into disaster as the monster truck starts eating and destroying the other trucks. Johnny is heartbroken that Eugene's truck has ruined his favorite event, so he decides to go to his sisters for help. But the twins are more focused on their fighting hamsters than on Johnny's dilemma.
Yeah, like getting Wolfgang and Johann Sebastian to stop fighting.
Johnny decides to seek help from Mr. Black and Mr. White instead. Once there, Johnny has to convince them to help him, which is tricky since they're in the middle of a showdown to see who's the strongest. After some persuading, the agents provide Johnny with a military-grade monster truck. But of course, the agents insist on driving.
And I get to drive.
Sorry, Johnny. You're too smart.
Johnny's plan is simple. Destroy Roadburn. But he soon realizes that this is impossible. Roadburn is unbelievably tough. Not knowing what else to do, Johnny returns to his sisters, and after noticing the hamsters fighting, he decides to step in. Instead of having two males together, Johnny suggests adding a female to the mix, because girls have a way of calming things down, I guess. And surprisingly, his idea actually works. So why not try the same strategy with Roadburn? To test this theory, the twins create Ginger, a female monster truck that Johnny cleverly introduces to Roadburn.
Fattest monster truck in the world, Ginger.
Guess what? His plan works like a charm. Roadburn stops destroying everything, and the day is saved. Moving on with Season 2, Episode 30, Johnny vs. Bling Bling 2. Johnny and Dukey are playing a video game when Bling Bling repeatedly interrupts them, ringing the doorbell over and over again, demanding to see Susan.
Get her for me.
Each time he rings the bell, Johnny goes to answer it. The first time, Bling Bling shows up with a million roses. The second time, a pony. And the third time, a missile. On this last occasion, he threatens Johnny with the missile if he doesn't bring Susan out to meet him. But Johnny disconnects it and solves the problem. Feeling defeated, Bling Bling leaves, but not for long. Meanwhile, Sissy, one of Johnny's classmates, shows up and challenges Johnny to his favorite video game.
I challenge you to a video game showdown.
Later that day, Johnny heads back inside to continue playing with Dukey in order to prepare for a showdown with Sissy. Yet shortly after, the duo is interrupted again by the doorbell. This time, Bling Bling shows up disguised as a baby. His new plan being to have Susan take care of him. After all, who could say no to a baby? Hugh also comes to the door and seeing the helpless baby, immediately calls his daughters to look after him, completely unaware that the baby is Eugene. Susan, not realizing the facade either, picks him up. The baby keeps kissing her on the cheeks and cries whenever she's not near. This is pretty weird. The twins, with zero experience handling babies, conclude that the reason he keeps crying must be because he's hungry.
He's hungry. Let's get him
They search for something for the baby to eat. Johnny overhears Eugene talking and figures out that the baby is actually Bling Bling. Johnny demands that he leave as he doesn't want anyone ruining his playtime with Sissy. However, Bling Bling refuses to go, so Johnny drags him to his sister's lab and sends him off in a rocket back to his island. Solution is short-lived as Bling Bling returns armed with a laser and zaps Johnny and Dukey, turning them into babies as well. Johnny has little time left before Sissy arrives, so he begs Bling Bling to change him back to his original age. Bling Bling refuses, leading to a chaotic baby brawl. As the chaos continues, the twins finally realize what's going on. The baby's Eugene, Johnny's in trouble. Meanwhile, Johnny, Dukey, and Bling Bling end up at a daycare, where the battle continues until Johnny wins a sword fight thanks to the energy he gains from eating broccoli, unlike Bling Bling, who ate cookies. I guess you gotta eat your veggies, kids. Then Johnny forces Bling Bling to restore him to his original age, but Eugene sneakily sets the age to just 11 days old. Just before Bling Bling can press the button to finalize the change, the twins burst in to save their brother. They not only manage to return Johnny to his proper age, but they also punish Bling Bling by making him eat his least favorite food, broccoli. Next up is episode 31, Johnnyland. The entire Test family heads to the new amusement park in town to enjoy a full day of fun, exactly 12 hours worth. Lila and Hugh make a beeline for the flying swings. The twins set out to win tickets to the game machines, while Johnny and Dukey spend the entire day waiting in line for the park's tallest roller coaster. They finally get on, but halfway through the ride, the park closes, and everything shuts down, making the long wait totally pointless. Although everyone else is happy about the day, Johnny and Dukey are crushed to learn they won't be returning to the amusement park for another year.
You bet we'll go back. Next year.
I get his frustration. Waiting isn't really my thing either. As the days pass, Johnny remains sad, so Dukey tries to cheer him up, which not only soothes Johnny, but also sparks a brilliant idea. He should build his own roller coaster. To do this, Johnny first needs to distract his sisters so he can sneak into their lab. He sends them a fake letter, supposedly from Gail, inviting them to a book signing.
And we are VIP guests!
Twins, thrilled, rush out, while Johnny sneaks into their lab and uses some robots to create a roller coaster inside the house. When the twins arrive at Gil's house, they realize they've been duped. Furious, they rush back home only to find the impressive roller coaster Johnny has built. Although they want to expose Johnny to their parents, they can't, because Johnny blackmails them with a video of their secret experiments on him. Johnny continues enjoying the roller coaster, but quickly gets bored and decides to upgrade it,
Let's make more rides!
creating an entire amusement park, which he dubs Johnnyland. To expand his park, Johnny and Dukey trick the twins again. However, the twins decide that enough is enough, and they decide to build destructive robots to tear down Johnny's park. Although their plan seems perfect, it's a total failure, as the robots decide that they'd rather chill and have fun at the park. I can't blame them. I do the same. When Hugh and Lila see the house turn into an amusement park, Hugh gets angry and gives the twins 1 hour to restore everything to normal or face serious punishment.
I want it done in 1 hour or you'll lose the lab for 1 week.
With no other choice, the twins go to plan B, creating a terrifying new attraction, a giant ball launched into the sky and held up only by a spring. The plan is to get Johnny to ride it and scare him so much that he'll want to shut down the park for good. However, the plan backfires again when their parents, not Johnny, end up on the ride. Now the twins have another problem, as the ride breaks and their parents need to be rescued. Johnny realizes the situation, steps up and asks the robots to build something to cushion the fall. Mission accomplished. Everything goes smoothly, and once their parents are safe, Johnny tells the robots to dismantle everything, but not before trying out the giant ball himself. In episode 37, The Revenge of Johnny X, Susan is kidnapped by what seems to be an indestructible giant alien, so Johnny has to go rescue her, but only after Mary convinces him to do it.
And remember all the good times she was there for you.
Meanwhile, Susan realizes that Eugene is obviously behind this, as he just wants to impress her with dinner, movies, or anything else. Meanwhile, Mary restores Johnny's superpower so he can defeat the alien as Johnny X. Johnny heads towards the alien and upon getting closer, discovers that it's Bling Bling. Johnny gives it his all in the fight against Bling Bling, but the alien robot is way too powerful. He can't even make a scratch. Defeated, Johnny returns to Mary for backup. Together with Mr. Black and Mr. White, they come up with a plan to defeat Bling Bling and rescue Susan. The plan is that Johnny has to transform into a snake, sneak into the alien robot from underneath, and turn it off.
As someone who could shapeshift into a snake could get inside.
Easy, right? Actually, Johnny does manage to do it, but once inside, he realizes that his powers aren't strong enough. Fortunately, Mary, Dukey, and the agents arrive just in time to help him fight Bling Bling. After dealing with him, the group start looking for Susan, only to find that she's been having a fantastic time swimming and relaxing on a makeshift beach. This whole time, she was living her best life. Continuing with episode 45, Johnny X Strikes Back, 5 evil aliens previously defeated defeated by Johnny Wacko, the beekeeper, Brain Freezer, Mr. Mittens, and Albert the butler, decide to team up and break out of prison. Meanwhile, Johnny, as Johnny X, decides to help anyone in need without expecting anything in return as part of his effort to become a better person. Johnny reluctantly agrees to help his sisters test one of their new inventions, an attraction potion they plan to use on Gil. Despite his initial hesitation, Johnny remembers his promise, and he agrees. He also helps Bumper, the local bully by the way, get his cat down from a tree and assists Bling Bling in finding one of Susan's shoes, but instead of gratitude, he ends up with a punch in the face. Johnny is baffled as to why helping others seems to bring him so much grief.
And all I got in return was a punch in the face and a death hug.
Wonders who would help him if he ever needed it. While Johnny is lost in thought, the 5 villains arrive and kidnap him, determined to finally take him down. Dukey tries to intervene but gets frozen by the brain freezer. Later, the twins stumble upon Dukey, thaw him out, and learn that their brother's been kidnapped. Although they're worried, they don't know what to do, since it's 3 against 5.
Ow! There are 5 of them and 3 of us!
However, help arrives just in time as Bling Bling, Gil, and Bumper join forces with them to rescue Johnny. The twins grant mutant powers to everybody, forming the Johnny Saving Six, killer name. After discovering Johnny's location, the 6 head to the site and engage in an epic battle against the 5 villains. Not only are they victorious, but they also manage to capture the villains and return them to prison. Now that's what I call a job well done. After a hockey game, Bumper hits Johnny so hard that he crashes right into his sister's laboratory. Once there, Johnny realizes that the twins are not around, which seems like the perfect opportunity to experiment without any annoying interruptions. Johnny and Dukey make a huge mess. When the twins return to find their lab in chaos, they're furious, annoyed beyond belief. They decide to conduct an experiment on Johnny, extracting what they call bad Juju. In short, the twins remove all of his negative traits, transforming him into a good guy, overflowing with positivity. However, when Johnny tries to prove that he hasn't changed and attempts to be bad,
And I will prove that I'm still a bad boy.
finds himself unable. It's as if an overwhelming wave of kindness is controlling him. Seeing how bizarre Johnny's acting, Dukey rushes to the twins' lab to demand they bring Johnny back, but they refuse. Meanwhile, Hugh plugs in a microwave that short circuits and plunges the house into darkness. The unexpected power surge deactivates the containment where the twins had stored Johnny's bad Juju, allowing an evil version of Johnny to escape. The evil Johnny quickly starts wreaking havoc across the city, causing the twins and Dukey to panic as they realize things have gone completely off the rails. But that's not all. The good Johnny becomes a problem too. He's excessively nice and clingy, driving his sisters crazy. After analyzing the situation, the twins realize the only way to restore order is by merging the 2 Johnnies back together.
We use good Johnny to trick bad Johnny into a trap, then morph the 2 back together.
Their plan works. They capture the evil Johnny by trapping him in a pit, and with both Johnnies together, the twins merge them back into one, bringing their brother back to his usual self. Both of them vow to never experiment on Johnny like that ever again. Johnny is struggling with his math homework, which is extremely hard for his empty shell of a brain, when out of nowhere, Susan comes into his room and offers to do it for him. Seeing that his sister is helping him for no apparent reason, Johnny suspects that she wants something. Susan admits she needs help keeping Bling Bling away until she and Mary can finish the anti-Susan love lozenge, a potion designed to make Eugene lose his crush on her.
And that's why we're working on an anti-Susan love lozenge.
Johnny, thrilled by the idea of getting his homework done for a whole month, agrees without hesitation. He then starts coming up with excuses to keep Bling Bling away from Susan, like saying that she's ill, can't speak, or is taking a month-long shower. Despite these very good excuses, Bling Bling remains relentless, thinking of solutions to each problem: a potion to cure Susan's supposed illness, a new tongue so she can speak again, and even breaking into the lab to find her. However, when Bling Bling does break in, Johnny hands him a green slug, claiming that it's Susan after a failed experiment. Eugene, surprisingly gullible, takes the slug and leaves happily. Back on his island, Bling Bling instructs his scientists to restore Susan to her normal state, but soon realizes the slug is just a slug, and Johnny is the real reason he can't be with his love.
Johnny is constantly blocking you at the door.
With utter conviction to eliminate Johnny, Bling Bling heads to the test house in a helicopter loaded with bombs. Johnny, spotting Bling Bling's approach, races to the twins' lab to activate a shield that protects the house, making the bombs useless. However, Bling Bling is still a serious threat and refuses to leave until Johnny is dealt with. The twins realize they need to hurry with the potion, but they're missing a crucial ingredient, a beetroot that can only be found in the desert.
The beetroot of a pima cactus located in the Arizona desert.
But they gave Johnny and Dukey special shoes that let them run at an incredible 200 miles per hour to fetch the beetroot. Johnny and Dukey retrieve the beetroot and return to the lab, allowing the twins to complete the potion. Johnny then tosses the potion at Eugene, and it works. Well, sort of. There's a twist. He now hates Susan, but has developed a crush on Mary instead.
Because I love Mary Tess.
Well, at least Susan can enjoy a 30-day break before the potion's effects wear off. Moving on with episode 56, Johnny vs. Dukey. At school, Johnny's being bullied by Bumper, who constantly throws water balloons at him as part of the ever-classic, ever-painful game, Uncle, where one must say the word to surrender. Since Johnny refuses to say it, Bumper keeps harassing him. Exhausted by Bumper's bullying, Johnny asks Dukey for help, and together they manage to make Bumper say Uncle, putting an end to the torment. Afterward, Johnny and Dukey discuss the situation, and Dukey suggests that if he were playing against Johnny, he would most likely win. Johnny gets upset by this, convinced there's no way Dukey could win. Dukey also becomes annoyed upon hearing this, and another round of Uncle begins. The two engage in various challenges, including water balloon fights, eating worms, enduring Bling Bling Boy's singing, and even a dirty underwear war. Gross. However, neither is willing to say Uncle. Eventually, the fight leads them to the twins' laboratory. Seeing that the argument is escalating, the twins decide to intervene. Susan and Mary agree that the game is pointless. There's no real winner. Susan claims that if there were a winner, it would be Dukey, as he's their creation, and compared to Johnny, he's much smarter. On the other hand, Mary insists that Johnny would be the winner, and questions Susan's lack of faith in their little brother.
How can you vote against your own flesh and blood little brother?
This sparks another argument, but this time between Susan and Dukey versus Johnny and Mary. However, the fight quickly spirals out of control when the twins decide to use rockets against each other. The problem is that the four of them are actually inside of the rockets, and noticing that the twins are not wanting to stop or concede, Dukey and Johnny decide to intervene. Well, it's definitely not worth dying over this dumb argument. Dukey and Johnny redirect the rockets, which end up crashing into the house and destroying it. Shortly after, Hugh and Lila arrive, and seeing the chaos, they confront their children. What they did is deemed unacceptable, especially over a silly game.
You are all grounded for life!
Hugh tries to prove that the game is meaningless and asks Lila to say Uncle, but she refuses and challenges him to do it instead. And yeah, you guessed it, another fight starts. In episode 77, Johnny X, A New Beginning. Johnny, excited for Earth Day, rushes to wake up Dukey because he knows the fair is in town to celebrate the occasion. Eager to go, Johnny remembers that his dad promised to take him, but Hugh is too sad by a news story about cats in danger that refuses to leave until someone rescues them. Seeing this, Johnny decides to ask the twins to give him back his mutant powers so he can become Johnny X again.
Mutate us into Johnny X and Super Dukey!
His plan is simple: save all the cats in need so that Hugh will take him to the fair. Once all the cats are safe, Johnny and Dukey return to Hugh, who's now willing to take them. But just as they're talking, Hugh is frozen by Brain Freezer. Turns out the villains Johnny previously fought have teamed up to form a group called the Johnny Stopping Evil Force 5, with the goal of eliminating him.
The Johnny Stopping Evil Force 5!
After realizing that their powers are running low due to all the cat saving, Johnny and Dukey seek help from the twins. However, the Johnny Stopping Evil Force 5 tracks them to the lab, leading to disaster when the laser the twins intended to use to recharge Johnny and Dukey accidentally hits the villains instead. As a result, the 5 villains gain the same mutant powers as Johnny.
They've got mutant powers too?
Which escalates the situation even further. To fix this, the twins, along with Johnny and Dukey, decide to seek help from Bling Bling, who also has a super sophisticated lab. Bling Bling agrees to help, but only if Susan accompanies him to the fair and gives him a kiss. Susan, of course, refuses and simply freezes him with a special lipstick before heading to the lab. Once there, the twins grant Johnny and Dukey new mutant powers. Now they can teleport. Johnny has hyperintelligence, and Dukey can see things that no one else can. Using his new power, Dukey discovers that the villains have Hugh still frozen in the living room. The plan is simple: go to the house, defeat the villains, and bring them back to the lab to lock them in a plasma gel cell the twins created. Pretty easy, right? Johnny and Dukey teleport to the house, but the villains are no longer there. They've moved to the fair, and they're causing chaos. Johnny and Dukey teleport to the fair, and after an epic battle, they manage to capture them all. However, just when they think everything is solved and the city is safe, Dark Vegan arrives. Another villain who plans to eliminate Johnny and destroy the entire planet.
Enjoy your end of the Earth Day Carnival!
Just right. Continuing from where we left off, in episode 78, Johnny X The Final Ending, Johnny is furious. All he wanted was to enjoy a day at the fair, but instead he's stuck saving the world. Meanwhile, Dark Vegan pushes ahead with his plan to destroy the Earth by draining all the water and chopping down all the trees. Not very environmentally conscious, if you ask me. However, his daughter and wife are fed up. They were supposed to be on vacation, relaxing and having fun, not stuck on a planet-destroying mission.
We are supposed to be on vacation.
Billy Julian, his daughter, is especially annoyed and tries to restore everything back to normal. But before she can, her father catches her in the act and punishes her by sending her to her room. Meanwhile, Johnny is in a strategy meeting with the General, Mr. Black, Mr. White, the twins, and Dukey, trying to find a solution. Johnny proposes an ambitious plan: use the General's spaceships to invade Dark Vegan's ship and deploy a powerful laser to neutralize his henchmen and restore the water and trees. Sounds like a brilliant plan, right? Unfortunately, it fails. Dark Vegan has an even more powerful laser that obliterates their spaceships and Johnny's laser. Moving to plan B, Johnny decides to teleport to the villain ship with a bomb set to explode in 30 seconds. However, once there, he's immediately surrounded by Dark Vegan's henchmen and is forced to teleport back, causing the bomb to explode at the General's base. For Plan C, Johnny decides to seek help from the Evil Force 5, since they also have mutant powers. Actually, joining forces to defeat the ultimate villain might finally put an end to it, right? Johnny approaches them and, despite the challenge, manages to convince them.
Okay, fellas, it's only temporary.
Newly formed Johnny Helping Not So Evil Force 5. That's a mouthful. Along with Johnny and Dukey, they teleport to Dark Vegan's ship, but immediately run into trouble due to the sheer number of henchmen. In the chaos of their attempted escape, Johnny and the team accidentally end up in Jillian's room. Without hesitation, Johnny asks for her help.
Is there any way you can help us?
She agrees. She guides them to the room with the self-destruct button, only to find that it's been disconnected. Now, Johnny needs a new plan, and fast if he wants to save everybody. Remembering his sister's advice that combining all their mutant powers could make them unstable but incredibly powerful, Johnny decides to put this theory to the test. The 7 of them must risk everything and unite their powers to defeat Dark Vegan and restore balance to the Earth.
Together we can form one giant super mutant power and destroy the Armada.
This decision is undeniably heroic, and everybody agrees to it. They combine their forces and finally defeat Dark Vegan. The plan worked, and don't worry, Johnny and the others are okay. In the end, everything worked out perfectly. Diving into the 4th season with episode 1, Johnny's new baby sisters. Fed up with the twins' experiments, he's especially frustrated with Johnny for always agreeing to be their lab rat.
I am so tired of the same old things!
Hugh and Lila warn them that they don't want to see any experiments when they return, as they plan to go on their first date in 11 years. Yeah, 11 years. And they want to enjoy it without any interruption. Their plan is to go to the movies for 3 hours, so it should be a pretty simple task, right? Just don't do anything crazy while they're out. However, as soon as their parents leave, the twins have already conducted another experiment. They've turned themselves into babies. Despite leaving instructions for Johnny on how to revert them to their original age, Johnny's furious. The twins' transformation means he can't have his planned parents out mini party and will have to babysit instead. A few seconds later, the doorbell rings. It's Gil. It seems he came to babysit the twins after seeing an ad for a sitter needed at the test house. I can't help but wonder who might be behind this. Of course, the baby twins are thrilled to see their crush, but Johnny's annoyed, as he knows that Gil has no clue about how to take care of babies.
Babies like chili, right?
No, chili is bad for babies.
Johnny has to feed them, change their diapers, and keep them entertained. Determined not to lose his parent-free day, Johnny heads to the lab to transform them back, following the instructions left by the twins. Unfortunately, the machine only works at 4:55, 5 minutes before their parents are due back. Frustrated, Johnny tries to crack the code but fails, so he calls Bling Bling for help, though he isn't much help either, as he can't crack the code either.
I came to tell you, I can't crack the code.
Meanwhile, Gil continues to be a disaster as a babysitter. Mary is in the middle of the road, Susan on the roof. Johnny's basically babysitting the babysitter. To make matters worse, their mother calls to say that they'll be arriving earlier than expected. Johnny is definitely running out of time here. Furious, Johnny confronts the twins and blames them for ruining his day. The twins feel a little bit guilty and write a new code to transform them back. As a reward for all the trouble that they caused, Susan and Mary give Dukey a steak and Johnny a completed history homework assignment. But there's one final task before their parents come back: cleaning the house. They quickly tidy up, and when their parents arrive, they're impressed that everything looks normal. Hugh, eager to relax on the sofa and watch a movie, unknowingly exposes their mischief. Johnny and the twins had hidden all the mess underneath the sofa. So when Hugh sits down, everything is catapulted into the air, along with Gil and Bling Bling. Well, at least they made an effort to hide it. Episode 85, Dark Johnny, opens with a brief flashback to the toxic relationship between Dark Vegan and Johnny, showcasing how it devolved into a fierce rivalry, with Dark Vegan determined to destroy him. Here's how it all went down. Johnny and Dukey were on a mission to discover life on other planets when they stumbled upon Veganda, Dark Vegan's planet. There, Johnny learns that the inhabitants live in paradise, literally by stealing resources from other planets. As expected, Dark Vegan plots to destroy Earth by taking all of its water and trees. However, Johnny, alongside Jillian, managed to hinder his plan and save the Earth. Now stranded on Earth, Dark Vegan continues to harbor a grudge against Johnny. Fast forward to the present, and Dark Vegan's life on Earth is a mess. His integration has been incredibly challenging, particularly when it comes to finding and keeping a job due to his arrogant attitude. Frustrated, he makes multiple attempts to eliminate Johnny, but is stopped each time by various obstacles. Feeling defeated and exhausted, Dark Vegan decides to open up to Johnny, Dukey, and Jillian about his true feelings and his desire to return home.
I just miss being an evil ruler on my home planet so much, and I just...
Seeing his distress, Johnny decides to help him, of course, with the condition that he will not attempt to destroy Earth again. Despite Dark Vegan's initial reluctance, he eventually agrees. Johnny, Dukey, and Dark Vegan head to the twins' lab in search of a spaceship to get back to Veganda. However, obtaining the spaceship is a bit challenging, as the twins refuse to help. Johnny tries his usual persuasive tactics, but the twins remain firm in their refusal.
No, you can't borrow the spaceship.
Undeterred, the trio explores various ways to obtain the spaceship, but nothing seems to work. Not knowing what else to do, Johnny comes up with a brilliant plan. He decides to use Dark Vegan's mind control abilities on Gil to manipulate him into arranging a tea party with the twins. This way, Johnny can convince them to hand over the spaceship keys, and it works. With the keys in hand, Johnny successfully returns Dark Vegan and his family to their planet, but shortly after arriving, they come back to Earth. Turns out Dark Vegan can't live without toast, a food that's not available on his planet.
You came back for toast?
Yes!
However, Jillian and her mother are very pleased with this outcome because they truly do love Earth. In episode 87, Papa Johnny. Johnny's running away from Hugh, who is trying to force him to take a bath. Despite Dukey's help in hiding, Hugh eventually finds Johnny and gives him a bath. It doesn't stop there. Soon, Hugh is chasing Johnny with a gun loaded with Brussels sprouts, aiming at him to make him eat his vegetables. He also pursues Johnny to get him to clean his room and brush his teeth. Johnny is clearly annoyed as he just wants to rest after a grueling day. Hearing this, Hugh gets irritated since it's obvious that Johnny does nothing all day but play, while he has to keep everything in the house running perfectly, including Johnny.
You had an easy day. I had a hard day.
Hugh and Johnny start arguing, each claiming that they wouldn't last a second in the other's shoes. Susan and Mary, who overhear the argument, decide to turn the idea into reality. Why not switch Hugh and Johnny for a day? Surely, absolutely nothing could go wrong. In their lab, the twins make it happen. Johnny becomes Hugh and Hugh becomes Johnny. How wild is that? While Hugh, as Johnny, goes to school, Johnny, as Hugh, stays home doing his father's chores. However, soon after starting their new routine, both realize how tough the other's life actually is. Hugh faces constant bullying at school, while Johnny deals with unpleasant tasks at home like unclogging the toilet.
If Dad can unclog a toilet, so can we.
Changing light bulbs on really high ceilings, baking, and even wrestling with a crazy raccoon. Meanwhile, the twins are thoroughly enjoying this chaos, finding it very entertaining. Both Hugh and Johnny quickly give up on living each other's lives, as it turns out to be a disaster neither of them find enjoyable. They both want to return to their own bodies, but before they do, they decide to team up to handle Bumper, Johnny's bully, so we leave Johnny alone once and for all. After all, teamwork makes the dream work. With that resolved, Hugh and Johnny now attempt to clean up the mess that Johnny made while trying to do Hugh's chores, but just before they can start, Lila arrives, furious and demanding an explanation for the state of the house.
Why is the house smoking with burnt cupcakes all over the lawn?
Lila quickly realizes what's going on and declares that switching bodies to prove who has the hardest routine is absurd, since it's obvious that she's the toughest schedule. Susan, upon hearing this, gets mad, arguing that she has it even worse, and you guessed it right. Susan and Lila switch bodies to prove who's right. As expected, everything ends up in yet another disaster. Continuing with episode 106, Who's Johnny? At school, Johnny tries to compliment Sissy, or rather, flirt with her, but his awkward manners and cringeworthy comments completely put her off. After being rejected multiple times, Johnny gets angry and vows never to speak to her again. There's a small hitch. In one of his classes, Johnny and Hissy are assigned to work together on a project.
And our first team is Sissy and Johnny!
Which Johnny obviously hates, so he tries to convince the teacher to let him switch partners, but they refuse, arguing that Johnny needs an A to pass the class and that Sissy is the only one who can help him achieve that grade. Otherwise, Johnny will have to join Bumper's class, something he definitely doesn't want to do. Reluctantly, Johnny decides he'd rather work with Sissy. After class, he heads straight to his sisters for advice on how to handle Sissy. The twins suggest he stop being gross and change his attitude to one that girls might like, advising him to quit making silly jokes and, be nice. The next day at school, Johnny follows their advice, but nope, Sissy continues to reject him. Frustrated, Johnny goes back to the twins and asks them to do something more drastic, change his personality entirely. The twins are hesitant, as altering someone's personality is actually very complex.
The human personality personality is based on so many things that nobody really knows for sure.
However, they eventually concede and tweak his personality, bringing out his English heritage. Johnny's new persona surprises everybody. He's suddenly very polite, attentive, and well-mannered.
I must apologize for my earlier behavior.
Hugh and Lila are also surprised by this transformation, and even though they like the new Johnny, they realize it's wrong to have changed him so drastically. So they ask the twins to restore him to his original self. In the lab, the twins try to reverse the change, but there's a problem. Johnny has so many personalities attributed to his different heritages that they don't know which one is the real one.
I can't find Johnny's DNA map.
Are you saying you can't find Johnny?
Duo has a daunting task ahead, cycling through each personality until they find the true Johnny. This quickly spirals into chaos, as each new version of Johnny is more outrageous than the last. And to make matters worse, the Johnny with the Spanish heritage tries to kiss Sissy, making her feel extremely uncomfortable. As the twins scramble to restore Johnny and prevent further chaos, they finally succeed. Realizing the mess they created, they help Johnny mend his relationship with Sissy through a brief but effective therapy session. In the end, Johnny not only smooths things over, but also gets an A on his project.
Okay, you both get A's.
That's what I call a double win. Next up is episode 112, Johnny's new BFF. As we all know, Johnny and Dukey are best friends and spend most of their time together. However, Hugh and Lila are completely clueless about this and think Johnny is always alone, playing, talking, and doing everything by himself. They consider him an antisocial freak. Well, that's at least how they describe him. To help Johnny make friends, Hugh and Lila decide to bring in the neighborhood's loneliest kids, hoping Johnny will finally get a chance to socialize. But the kids that they bring in are too weird and nerdy. It just doesn't work.
Did you know that the African stick bug has over 29 eyes and their bite causes temporary paralysis?
Despite their effort, Hugh and Lila continue to push for Johnny to make friends, and this makes Johnny tired of the situation. He seeks help from his sisters, but the twins are busy working on an artificial intelligence project and barely pay notice to him. Realizing that they're building a highly realistic robot named Luke, Johnny asks if he can spend time with it, hoping to use Luke to convince his parents that he has friends and he should be left alone. After much begging, the twins agree, but only give Johnny 1 hour. Johnny promptly introduces Luke to his parents as his new best friend, and Hugh and Lila feel a sense of relief upon seeing their son socializing. Since Johnny doesn't actually need Luke's company, he tells the robot it can leave. However, Luke refuses, wanting to try skateboarding just like Johnny.
Okay, Luke, back to the lab you go.
Luke wants to skateboard!
Despite Dukey's warnings about the potential dangers, Johnny lets Luke give it a shot, and as expected, Luke crashes into a tree and breaks apart. To avoid getting into trouble with his sisters, Johnny tries to hide the evidence by burying Luke in the garden. What Johnny doesn't know is that his parents have been watching him the whole time, and alarmed by his behavior, decide to call the cops. After all, it's not normal to bury a friend. However, Hugh and Lila soon discover that Luke is just a robot. Even though this discovery brings some relief, they're still upset, because Johnny still doesn't have any real friends. To calm them down, Johnny insists that he does have friends, and claims that Dukey is, in fact, his best friend. Hugh finds this sweet, but points out it doesn't change the fact that Johnny's antisocial with other people. Annoyed and tired of his parents' persistence, Johnny decides to reveal that Dukey can actually talk. Although he's unsure how his parents will react, Dukey falls in line and decides to speak. Hugh and Lila are obviously shocked, and they faint. After all, it's not every day that you hear a dog talk. When they wake up, Dukey chats with them, and to their surprise, Hugh and Lila are thrilled to learn that Dukey can offer incredible advice. They even end up wanting to spend more time with him.
And Dad, your meatloaf is overcooked. Lower the temperature to 415, cook with foil on top for the last 10 minutes.
But this frustrates Johnny, as Dukey is his best friend. To solve this, Johnny goes to the twins for help once again, but they're too busy repairing Luke to assist him. However, Johnny discovers that the twins have a memory erasing machine and devises a plan. He recruits all the kids Hugh and Lila had previously introduced, forms a team, and they work together to distract the twins and sneak into their lab. Their goal is to gain access to the machine and erase Hugh and Lila's memory. Eventually, the kids succeed and restore everything back to normal. After all this, they even end up playing tag together. Looks like Johnny finally found some real human friends. Moving on, episode 113, Johnny vs. Bling Bling IV. As soon as Johnny wakes up, the twins surprise him with several gifts that are either meant to please him or prove useful. Among them are a television, a robot that helps him brush his teeth, and candy. Johnny quickly suspects his sisters are up to something. And he's right. It's Valentine's Day. This means one thing: Eugene. Susan is desperate for Johnny's help to avoid Eugene at all costs, knowing he will surely try something to win her over. She's not wrong. Bling Bling scientists have invented the super duper love chocolate. A chocolate that will make Susan fall hopelessly in love with him.
What do you got?
Super duper love chocolate, sir. They will get Susan Test to fall madly in love with you.
The kicker? She doesn't even need to eat it. Just a single touch will do the trick. Without wasting any time, Bling Bling heads to the test house to try the chocolate on Susan, but Johnny surprises him by dressing up as her. Johnny is fully determined to keep Bling Bling away from his sister. As a backup plan, Bling Bling rolls out a war tank that shoots canisters of of love gas, but this plan also fails and only ends up attracting 5 cave girls that Johnny had previously brought. Still, Bling Bling doesn't give up and moves on to plan C, a guitar. What better way to win over Susan's heart than with music? But this plan also fails when Johnny quickly intervenes. Later, Johnny reassures Susan that Eugene won't bother her anymore, confident that Bling Bling will tire of his attempts after the 3rd try and will likely be crying in his room, eating ice cream and staring at one of her pictures. Susan feels relieved and happy. But what she doesn't know is that Bling Bling has a plan D this time. Bling Bling's new idea is to kidnap Susan with the help of a giant gorilla and take her to the top of the tallest tower in Porkbelly.
Bring her to the top of the tallest building in Porkbelly, and I will save her.
At the top, Bling Bling, dressed as the superhero Diamond Man, will rescue her, thinking this would make Susan swoon for her heroic savior. But surprise, surprise, this plan fails, as Johnny swoops in to save her, dressed as a superhero himself. Diving into episode 121, Sleepover at Johnny's. It's a Friday afternoon, and Hugh is furious over the mess that Johnny has made in the house, so he orders Johnny to clean up, but Johnny swiftly escapes to his room to avoid the chore. Once in his room, Johnny notices a group of musician robots and realizes his sisters are up to something. You know, like always. Johnny heads to the lab where the twins reveal their request. They want to sleep over with Gil. Johnny's task is simple. He just needs to invite Gil and make sure he comes, so the twins can give him a kiss while he's asleep. Okay, that's pretty creepy.
Johnny's gonna ask Gil next door to sleep over, and he'll say, "Sure, Johnny bro."
Johnny agrees, but only if the twins create a machine that will clean up all the mess he has to deal with. Once the deal is made, Johnny heads to Gil's house to invite him. Initially, Gil declines, but he quickly changes his mind when Johnny mentions that there will be onions. Yeah, onions. But things get complicated when Bling Bling shows up and demands to be invited too, thinking this is the perfect chance to be close to Susan. Johnny refuses and even shows Bling Bling a video of his mother saying that he can't stay for any sleepovers. After all, who can argue with a mom? But Bling Bling has a backup plan. He's created a perfect replica of himself, Bling 2, to stay home while he sneaks out for the sleepover.
Bling 2 stays at home, and Mom thinks I'm at home, but I'm partying with you.
Then Bling Bling bribes Johnny with cash, and Johnny reluctantly agrees. As Johnny walks home, Jillian also shows up and wants an invite to the sleepover. Johnny tells her it's not a good idea to mix boys and girls, so Jillian decides to ask the twins instead. The twins agree, but only if Jillian stays away from their Gil. At 8 o'clock sharp, Gil arrives to the sleepover, followed shortly by Bling Bling and then Jillian. Seeing everybody, Hugh gets angry, but does allow everybody to stay under 2 conditions. Don't make a mess, and boys and girls must stay in separate rooms. So Gil and Bling Bling join Johnny while Jillian stays with the twins. The plan is simple. Johnny just needs to get the boys to sleep while the twins finish his cleaning machine. But of course, nothing goes as planned. Bling 2 arrives and immediately causes chaos by fighting with Bling 1, both determined not to miss out on the fun. Meanwhile, Johnny gives Hugh noise-canceling headphones to block out the commotion, but the situation quickly spirals out of control. Jill spots Jillian and falls hopelessly in love with her, making the twins insanely jealous, chasing her around with a sword.
I told you to stay away from Gil!
If that weren't enough, Dark Vegan arrives just as Johnny and Dark Vegan's daughter seem to be kissing, which infuriates him even more. To top it off, Bling Bling's mother shows up and scolds him for disobeying her. Wow, could things get any worse? Johnny rushes to Mary in the lab, realizing they need the cleaning machine not only to tidy it up, but also to get Dark Vegan, Bling 2, and Bling Bling's mother out of the house. Johnny and Mary use the machine and manage to do just that before Hugh catches on. Wow. Close call. With everything back to normal and Jill finally asleep, the twins move in for the kiss, but after catching a whiff of his breath, they decide it's best to wait for another episode. Definitely all those onions. In episode 130, Johnny X strikes back again. Johnny and Dukey are having a blast playing with ice when they spot people through the window screaming and running away from a giant purple monster. Almost immediately, the twins burst into Johnny's room, pleading for him and Dukey to become Johnny X and Super Pooch again to help fix the mess that has apparently been caused by their latest failed experiment. Despite their doubts, Johnny and Dukey agree, but things quickly go south. Johnny accidentally causes a massive explosion with his fiery farts. Oh god. Right after this, agents Mr. Black and Mr. White storm into the twins' lab and confiscate everything. No more crazy experiments, no more inventions, no more mutant powers, and above all, no more disasters.
Your mutant experiments are a thing of the past, and we're dismantling it and all of your equipment.
However, the agents return shortly afterward, desperate for help because they used one of the twins' machines to create 2 super mutants. The mutants mutants want to destroy everything. Mr. Black, Mr. White, and the Commander beg the twins to restore Johnny and Dukey's powers so they can transform back into Johnny X and Super Pooch. But there's one big problem. They confiscated everything. The lab is gone. As the two super mutants arrive to eliminate them, Johnny and the gang manage to escape using a submarine from the twins' lab that the agents missed. Knowing they must act fast to prevent the mutants from taking over the world, Johnny decides to seek help from Bling Bling, who has a super laboratory of his own. On Bling Bling's island, he agrees to help, but only if Susan kisses him.
I'll let you use my lab and mutant rays if Susan just kisses me.
And this time, she actually does. Eugene's persistence has finally paid off. Good for him. Meanwhile, the twins also agree to assist, but only after securing a kiss from Gil for their efforts. With these very silly conditions settled, the twins restore the mutant powers to Johnny, Dukey, Mr. Black, and Mr. White, and the pack set out to confront the two evil agents. Unfortunately, they're quickly outmatched when the agents use a duplication power, creating 8 duplicates of themselves. Realizing they are vastly outnumbered,
Correction! You have us outnumbered.
Johnny recruits additional allies, including Bling Bling, Gil, Dark Vegan, the General, and of course the twins, to form a powerful team. Once everyone is ready, with their powers fully restored, and the twins having secured their kiss from Gil, yep, you heard it right, Gil kissed them, they confront the super agents and defeat them using their incredibly powerful fire butts. Undoubtedly the best superpower of them all.
I can't believe I'm doing this.
Continuing with episode 138, Johnny versus Bling Bling, the ultimate battle. Tired of Susan not noticing him and Johnny always interfering with his plans to win her over, Bling Bling decides to confront and defeat Johnny once and for all. This leads to a series of mini battles between Bling Bling and Johnny, all of which end in a stalemate. Seeing the ongoing conflict and the lack of resolution, the twins and Bling Bling scientists decide to step in. They create the ultimate battle, where the winner will receive a super shiny crown that certainly appeals to both boys. After some quick training and preparation, the boys are ready for the battle.
Say your goodbyes, Johnny Test!
Which will involve robot suits. However, none of them really know how to operate the suits, resulting in a big collision. And yes, once again, no winner. For the second round, they use super tanks equipped with laser beams. But once again, the battle ends in a draw, as the lasers have equal power, leaving both boys just injured.
We went with a photon particle blaster, powered by antimatter.
That's what we did!
In the third round, Johnny and Bling Bling are placed in massive catapults and launched toward each other. But as you might guess, it's a terrible idea. They collide mid-air and end up in the hospital. Despite Dukey's pleas to the twins and the scientists to end this reckless competition, they plan one final round, a race.
But what about a race?
Winner gets the crown!
In this race, Johnny and Bling Bling, still in their hospital beds, must descend a mountain, with the first to reach the finish line declared the winner. Both Johnny and Bling Bling strongly oppose this idea due to their injuries, but they're forced to compete anyway. And yes, once more, the race ends in a tie. Both the twins and the scientists are eager to try again, but Johnny and Bling Bling refuse. Instead, they team up and force the twins and the scientists to endure the chaos, while Johnny and Bling Bling sit back and enjoy the show. Next up, episode 140, Johnny of the Deep. Mary and Susan are in their lab finishing up an experiment when Bling Bling suddenly crashes through the window, falling into the lab and causing a complete mess. Dead set on winning Susan's affection, Bling Bling has created a ring with the power to hypnotize her.
Its unique molecular structure will cause Susan to go gaga over moi moi.
He shows the ring to Susan and she instantly falls under its spell. As Bling Bling carries her away, Mary urgently calls Johnny for help, knowing they need to rescue Susan as soon as possible. Once Mary convinces Johnny and Dukey to join the mission, she outlines her plan. They must get to Bling Bling's yacht and distract him while Mary uses a laser gun to slide the ring off Bling Bling's fingers. They can grab it and escape with Susan. Sounds pretty simple, right? Well, the plan does go smoothly at first, and they manage to snatch the ring from Bling Bling and rescue Susan, but now they have a new problem. Finding the ring that fell into the sea, which is like searching for a needle in a haystack. Johnny, Dukey, and the twins know they must retrieve it to prevent Bling Bling from using it on Susan again. To make the search easier and faster, the twins decide to transform Johnny and Dukey into sharks. Meanwhile, Bling Bling also sends his minions to find the ring. Although Johnny and Dukey initially have the upper hand as sharks, their advantage quickly fades as they encounter various marine creatures. Some are scared of them, others want to pick a fight.
I can't believe how much everyone hates sharks.
And some, like a lovesick purple shark, fall in love with them. In an attempt to escape, Johnny and Dukey hide in a sunken ship where they're shocked to find Aqua Dude, their favorite character from an old TV series. The duo is thrilled. Not only have they escaped the purple shark, but they're also with one of their idols, who just so happens to have found Bling Bling's ring.
I was out getting the newspaper this morning and boom, there it was.
Aqua Aquadude happily returns the ring to them, and Johnny and Dukey continue their mission. However, on their way back to the twins, Bling Bling intercepts them. Fortunately, Aquadude arrives to help and staves off Bling Bling's minions. Meanwhile, Johnny, Dukey, and Eugene set off to find the ring yet again. After a short search, the trio locates it, and even though Bling Bling manages to grab it, Johnny isn't too worried. The ring, after all, works on any girl. This is how Bling Bling, by accident, makes the purple shark fall in love with him. Now Bling Bling has a real problem. He'll need to outswim a shark. Diving into episode 151, Fangs a lot, Johnny. After Johnny reveals to his sisters that Gil is in love with Zeandra, a vampire girl from a movie, he tells them that if they truly want Gil to notice them, they need to become vampires. I mean, who wouldn't want to be a vampire? Following Johnny's advice, the twins decide to transform into vampires. However, as they begin the transformation, Dukey starts to have second thoughts, realizing that vampires drink blood, and he can't be sure the twins won't want to do the same.
Vampires? Are we nuts?
Once the transformation is complete, the worst happens. The twins start chasing Dukey and Johnny because they want their blood. The duo run outside, thinking they're safe since vampires don't like the sun, right? Well, Mary and Susan are different. They're like the vampires in Twilight. The sun just makes them sparkle. Even though the twins corner them, Johnny and Dukey manage to escape when Dukey distracts them by mentioning Gil.
Hey, remember, it's really Gil you want!
After all, he's the one that they really want, right? But instead of feeling relieved, Johnny is worried. Dukey's just sent his sisters after an innocent and somewhat clueless boy to drink his blood. Johnny knows they need to rescue him, so they head to the premiere of Zeandra's movie, assuming it's where Gil would be. Upon arriving at the theater, Johnny and Dukey rush to find him. Although the twins spot him first, Johnny manages to teleport them back to the lab using a special device. Once there, Johnny uses a machine to return them to their normal state, or something like it, since this time Johnny used frog DNA to reverse the transformation, so now they are something like teenage frogs. Were-frogs, I guess. Well, at least they won't be craving anybody's blood anymore. Diving into the last season of the series, episode 187, How to Train Your Johnny, it's cleaning day at the test house, and Hugh, of course, insists that Johnny help tidy up the mess. To make it more fun, he teaches Johnny his annoyingly catchy cleaning song.
Swish, swish here and a scrub, scrub there. It's time to clean up everywhere.
Unfortunately, this turns into a nightmare for Johnny, who can't stop humming it, so he turns to the twins for help again. Once at their lab, the twins decide to use their new memory erasing experiment on Johnny despite Dukey's concerns. As you might guess, things don't go very well. By mistake, the twins erase all of Johnny's memories.
You erased his brain?
There was a malfunction, yes.
He doesn't even remember how to walk or talk. Dukey, both worried and annoyed, tell the twins they need to fix this disaster and restore Johnny's memory. However, there's a small problem. They can't. The twins accidentally backed up Johnny's memories in the same place where they store all of Gil's photos. Restoring Johnny's memories would mean deleting all of Gil's photos, which they definitely don't want to do. Angry and confused, Dukey doesn't understand their priorities, but the twins come up with a backup plan while trying to recover the photos. They decide to teach Johnny how to behave from scratch, starting with proper diner etiquette, as Hugh is expecting everyone for dinner in exactly 1 hour. While Dukey and Susan try to handle Johnny, Mary soon realizes there isn't enough memory space.
Wait, I'll just delete some of the Johnny memories like I should have in the first place.
But besides deleting some of Gil's photos, she'll need to erase some of Johnny's negative memories to make the machine work again. Meanwhile, Susan and Dukey are chasing Johnny because he escaped while they were distracted, and now, without his memories, he's constantly getting into dangerous situations. Let's be honest though, he would have gotten into dangerous situations even with his memories. Once Johnny is safe and Mary has the machine ready, the twins and Dukey rush to restore his memories since he was already looking for them for dinner. However, despite Mary deleting all the negative memories and some of Gil's photos, there still isn't enough space to use the machine. In a desperate move to avoid getting caught by Hugh, the twins and Dukey decide to delete any remaining memory of Johnny. After this, Johnny is almost back to normal. It becomes clear at dinner that the memory they erased was actually about how to eat. Hugh, of course, notices something is off and gets upset.
You erased Johnny's brain, didn't you?
Not all of it.
But hey, at least Johnny got back most of his memories and forgot that catchy song, right? I'd call that a success. In episode 192, Johnny and Bling Bling Bond, Bling Bling shows up at the test house to ask Johnny for help because his mother has grounded him and taken away all of his money for an entire week. The problem is, Bling Bling doesn't know how to behave like a regular kid without his luxuries. You know, everybody catering to him, and without his precious Bling Bling. Desperate, Eugene begs Johnny to help him survive the week, as Johnny is the only regular kid that he actually knows.
The only regular kid I know, Tess! Show me how to survive!
Johnny is initially skeptical about helping him without any compensation. However, when Bling Bling offers to leave Susan alone for an entire month, the twins force Johnny to accept the deal. For their first activity, Johnny plays video games with Bling Bling, but Eugene only complains about the small TV and the uncomfortable controls. For the second activity, the guys eat sandwiches, but Bling Bling grumbles about the cheese and the taste of the soda.
What kind of cheese is this? I need artisan taraggio and Gruyere.
For the third activity, Johnny and Bling Bling go bike riding, but Bling Bling whines again when he realizes the bike isn't electric and that he actually has to pedal. This definitely frustrates Johnny, but he holds it together, knowing that the day is almost over and he won't have to deal with Bling Bling much longer. However, the next day, Bling Bling shows up again, bored and wanting to play with Johnny. Johnny tries to be patient, but finds he can't tolerate Bling Bling at all. The next 7 days are a pure struggle, but Dukey reassures him that he's almost done on the 8th day. Eugene will be free from his punishment and everything will return to normal. Yet on the 8th day, Bling Bling returns to the test house looking for Johnny. Despite no longer being grounded, he confesses that friends are more important to him. He wants to spend more time with Johnny.
It's about good times with good friends.
That's kinda sweet, actually. Exhausted and frustrated with Bling Bling, Johnny goes to his father and purposely destroys the meatloaf that just came out of the oven, getting himself grounded exactly what he wanted. When Bling Bling learns that Johnny is now grounded and can't play, he seems to understand and he leaves. Finally, Johnny's plan has worked. Well, almost. Since Bling Bling comes back with a giant robot to rescue Johnny from his punishment and take him away. However, the twins help Johnny escape. Afterward, Johnny has a talk with him and admits that seeing him every day is exhausting. Following their conversation, Bling Bling decides to go back to his usual self and start chasing Susan again. In episode 224, Gil stopping Johnny, the twins are thrilled as they prepare for their weekly Gil Fest, an event they eagerly anticipate every weekend. However, their excitement is cut short when they learn that Gil is selling his house. Heartbroken, the twins not only cancel their Gil Fest, but shut down their laboratory and stop all of their experiments, as their inspiration seems to be leaving with him. Johnny, realizing that this means no more laboratory or wild inventions, panics and decides he must solve the problem. Gil simply can't move away. Meanwhile, Bling Bling sees the advertisement for Gil's house and is delighted. This might finally remove the biggest obstacle standing between him and Susan. Johnny, on the other hand, speaks to Gil and discovers that moving was actually Gil's idea because he finds Porkbelly boring. Determined to change Gil's mind, Johnny offers to give him a tour to show him how wonderful Porkbelly really is.
You can't leave Porkbelly. It's the greatest place on earth, and I can prove it.
Bling Bling, who's eavesdropping on their conversation, is determined to sabotage the tour to ensure Gil still moves away. He tries several things to ruin the experience, including spreading whipped cream on the skateboarding rink while Gil and Johnny are skating, causing a giant soda to explode, and even manipulating a roller coaster to make it endless. Despite Bling Bling's best efforts, Gil ends up loving everything, finding it really cool. Yet Eugene's plans are only a partial failure because despite Gil enjoying the day, he still wants to move. Later that day, Gil asks Johnny to handle potential buyers while he goes to the store to buy onions. Gil and his onions. I just don't get it.
I have to go to the store and buy some onions. Oh, I love onions.
This gives Johnny and the twins the perfect opportunity to scare everyone away and prevent the sale of the house. However, when Gil returns, he brings the surprising news that the house has been sold. The twins are devastated, but all they can do is watch as Gil packs up and moves to his new home, conveniently located just 2 houses down the street. The twins are initially thrilled that Gil is still their neighbor. However, a new problem arises. Bling Bling now lives in Gil's old house. They don't worry too much though, as Johnny takes care of the situation, forcing Bling Bling to move out as well. Diving into episode 233, the last flight of Johnny X. Johnny wakes up in a panic, thinking that he's late for school. However, his sisters quickly calm him down, explaining that there are no classes today due to a giant robot attacking the city. You know, just a casual weekday in Porkbelly. Instead of going to school, Johnny and Dukey will need to suit up as Johnny X and Super Pooch to save the day. But in the midst of the action, Johnny and Dukey are captured by Mr. Black and Mr. White and taken to Area 51.1. Once there, the agents explain the situation. Turns out that Bling Bling, Dark Vegan, and Brain Freezer have declared themselves superheroes and have been secretly creating monsters causing chaos around Porkbelly.
You see, those heroes actually created those monsters.
Just so they can fight them off and look like heroes. Sounds like they're pulling a syndrome from The Incredibles. For this reason, Mr. White and Mr. Black informs Johnny that all superhero activities are now outlawed, which means Johnny X and Super Pooch are banned from using their powers. The next day, Johnny wakes up for school late and, knowing he might be in trouble for this, convinces Dukey to fly him there despite the agent's warnings. Johnny decides to ignore the no more superheroes rule and does it anyway. Once again, Mr. White and Mr. Black capture them, but this time they're detained in a cell that coincidentally also houses Bling Bling, Brain Freezer, and Dark Vegan. There, the others confess to Johnny that they've created a new wave of monsters to attack Porkbelly to prove that superheroes are still important.
We set up another wave of monsters to attack Porkbelly so we could save the day again. Oopsie.
With the help of the twins, Johnny and the others break out of prison, head to the city, and fight off the monsters despite the odds, achieving their goal. Superheroes are accepted once again. In the end, their plan succeeds. After Johnny's teacher realizes he hasn't read the assigned history book and has instead invented a wild story about how Porkbelly got its name, the teacher gives Johnny just one night to read the whole book. Otherwise, he'll be sent to the dreaded reading ranch, Johnny's worst nightmare. As usual, Johnny rushes to the twins for help, knowing they always have some invention that can assist him, and this time is no exception. The twins have just created the Easy Peasy Reads, a machine that scans a book and then projects it like a movie. That's pretty awesome. However, the invention isn't finished, so they advise Johnny not to use it.
Sorry, Johnny. The Easy Peasy Readsy isn't finished, and it's too buggy to use.
Desperate to complete his assignment quickly, Johnny ignores their warnings and uses the machine anyway, accidentally teleporting himself and Dukey inside the book. Now, Johnny is literally immersed in the reading experience. As Johnny and Dukey dive into the first chapter, they encounter a hunter named Gil who provides them with crucial information that Johnny writes down for his class presentation. Moving to the next chapter, they meet Cowardly Kid, a version of Eugene who's terrified of cows. This Eugene seems to be the reason behind the name Porkbelly.
And from now on, you can call me
Jiggly Piggly Boy?
Porkbelly.
As his fear of cows and his love for pigs inspired it. Johnny and Dukey continue through 1967 to the Clowny Rebellion. Meanwhile, the twins are worried that if Johnny finishes the book, they might never be able to pull him out. To prevent this, they send him a note warning him of the danger. However, Johnny can't act on it because the twins, while trying to fix the machine, also make the story move faster, propelling Johnny straight to the end. Eventually, Johnny and Dukey reach the conclusion of the book and fall into a void. But Johnny manages to stop their fall using a rope and decides to write his own chapter. This turns out to be a genius move, as it not only buys the twins time to rescue them, but also lets Johnny create his own ending.
He's a genius. He's making up another chapter of his own history.
Back in class, the teacher is impressed by all the facts that Johnny presents, though he's puzzled by the strange conclusion because it's Johnny's own creative twist. And that is how this great masterpiece comes to an end. I hope you enjoyed this recap of Johnny Test. And if you did, don't forget to hit that like button, subscribe, and comment on your favorite parts of the show. Thank you for watching. We'll see you next time. See ya.